Welcome back to the 7th grade Mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about the thirst trap industrial complex, a phenomenon that has created an atmosphere that allows for online pimping. There are a lot of people that are engaged in things like selling pictures on OnlyFans. These people are essentially sex workers.
Don't forget the Instagram models. That's where it started. Don't forget Instagram.
These people are sex workers. And whether they realize it or not, they hoeing for money. That's all it is, period, point blank. It's easy to spot these people online. It started on Instagram. It led to these people that were real sex workers that were selling their sex videos. And then these pedestrian hoes got involved in this. These renegade hoes got involved and started selling their photos on OnlyFans and selling their videos of them doing whatever on OnlyFans. It can be feet. It can be them masturbating under a full moon with a crystal dildo because they're into some weird sex magic. It can be all types of things. But in particular, what we're speaking to
that's some deep shit.
We're gonna circle back to the crystal sex toys in a little bit. But in particular, we're speaking to a larger hidden mechanism behind all this that is run by intelligence agencies, people from foreign countries who look to dissolve the United States of America as it is.
Here's an example. Here's something that happened last week. Roscoe understands. So I think last week or the week before last, the Miss America pageant just apologized to Vanessa Williams. You know that? Yeah, I saw this article.
Give them backstory.
See, people don't know how important this is. This goes back to, I don't want to give the wrong date to the A's. So the first Black Miss America was Vanessa Williams. You know, she married. We all know her from marrying Rick Fox. She's on Disney movies. She's all this. Well, what happened? She wins the Miss America pageant. Beautiful woman, Vanessa Williams wins the Miss America pageant. Then, like 3 days later, they strip her of the title because she did a layout for Penthouse. Now, here's the problem: the layout she did for Penthouse was years before. Number one, and number two, you know, it was some shit that was shot, and she's like, "Yeah, I didn't know it was gonna be used. You know, they never paid me no money. Blah blah blah." It was one of these deals where it's something she did when she was young, trying to break into Hollywood, and she never thought that she would reach the success that she did, and so they stripped her of it. Now, you fast forward a couple years later, where these women that would win Miss America, they would do Playboy, they would do these different magazines. So after all these years, so you discuss what we're discussing is basically this thirst trap thing where I think we've become a lot more comfortable with prostitution, but I'm not saying that she was a prostitute. That's not where I'm going. Where I'm going is that it's so common for women to display themselves or sell those kind of pictures is not a big deal anymore. And the Miss America pageant realized, hey, you know, this is somebody who was amazing, had a great life afterwards, you know. So I get it. You know, you guys apologize, but it's like a little bit too late. Like, you know, this was literally 20, 30 years later. you didn't think about this because they've had other people since then that have done layouts in Playboy. Playboy pays $1 million to these women. Of course they're going to do it, you know. So, but the point being is that they literally came out and apologized, which is great. And I have no problem with women into sexuality. That's the first thing. You know, a lot of the stuff that we do when it comes to shaming is just trying to control women. Like, hey, you're a whore, you can't do that. We just don't want them, you know, doing that as a man. But let's talk about the fact that right now, and it's men too. So we talk about this thirst trap thing. They're thirsting for attention. They're making money off of shit that it should be private. And so you got men doing the same things too. You got a lot of famous dudes who are doing layouts, and you had these guys who supposedly ain't gay, but they'll be doing gay porn and I'll just do this for money. I'm not really gay. Like, wait, what? You're not? That I see it. Okay. So I think that where it changed, I think going back to, remember Tommy Lee and his old girl. I think when their sex tape came out, I think when sex tapes started coming out, they started becoming tools for people to reach different fans. And then of course we got you know, Ray J and Kim Kardashian. Now, here's the crazy part: Kim Kardashian took off, and Ray J kind of plateaued. It's like he reached his pinnacle and but Kim, she's a billionaire. She's literally divorcing Kanye right now, and they're arguing over what $2 or $3 billion. So I think when people realize they could become super wealthy off this behavior, I'm not saying it justified it, because on the same token, there are negative aspects to when people desire wealth or when people use sexuality incorrectly, and if in the idea of being discovered, that's something that we've always talked about, me and Roscoe, that these women and these kids, because some of them were kids, males too, their desire to be discovered is so bad that they can become manipulated. And right now, Surviving R. Kelly, they got 3 documentaries on it. These people, because their parents probably encouraged some of them to, and some of these were just young girls just happy to be around a celebrity, is that their desire to be successful in this industry, their desire for money and wealth, it caused them to make bad decisions. So, like I said, nobody's making fun of you for making money on OnlyFans. I'm glad you're making money legally, but the fact is that this generation is way too comfortable with prostitution and selling of their bodies and stuff. And then when all of a sudden later on, when they decide to run for office or they decide to go in other aspects, people try to use that shit against them to blackmail them.
Okay.
And I think that's another thing.
Okay. Let's just get down to some real shit. All right.
Yeah.
Project Monarch is part of the MK Ultra program that was run by the CIA in the 60s and the 70s. Project Monarch had a part of this program called the sex kitten programming. And when triggered, the subject will perform any action or sexual act required by the handler. Now, this form of mind control essentially destroys the sacred feminine within the female victim, turning them into nothing more than a piece of meat to be used and abused by their manipulators. So, there are very famous people who were sex kitten mind control subjects, one of which was the woman that was married to Kurt Cobain before he died, Courtney Love. Courtney Love was the daughter of a high-ranking military officer in the United States military. And she was passed around to high-ranking generals and officers as a child. And then there's much to say that she was involved in the death of Kurt Cobain. But you see it in the black community also, where there has been a decrease in recognition of musical talent and skill, and this huge amplification of sexuality or over-sexualized black women. Because if you go back at the beginning of black music, it was all talent. And more and more and more, they started to show a little less of clothing, shedding more and more clothes until they're completely butt-ass naked.
It's more about image than it is about talent. And if you don't believe that, look how many. I remember us growing up. Remember how many fat black women singers there were? It was more about their voice. Now you don't see any fat singers, not female wise. You might see a couple fat dudes, everything from Biggie to Rick Ross, but you don't see the fat woman. And I think that's what people need to recognize. It's about image and sexuality. Hey, who was you remember the singer from the Weather Girls? Remember they took her voice and gave it to that skinny Italian girl?
Right.
See, y'all know about the Milli Vanilli scandal. We all know about that. But at the same time, there was a black Italian girl, skinny, beautiful girl, and they had a song, Everybody. And remember, come to find out, it was a fat black woman that was actually singing it I want to say from the Weather Girls. And so this began like in the 80s, where it was all about image. Talent was not even relevant. It was completely, it was about sexuality. It was about walking around naked. It's about, Madonna. let's not forget about Madonna. She made her whole career on that behavior.
Well, it goes back further than that, but we'll reach that point in just a second. But in the meantime, what I wanted to talk about is more about this Project Monarch, because in this project is what they call a beta. But beta is also the second Greek letter in the Greek alphabet, and it represents sexual models and sexual alters that the programmers are creating The primitive part of the brain is involved in this type of programming. An early sexual abuse event will be used to anchor this programming. These sexual slaves will develop sexual abilities that are far beyond what the public is aware of even possible. They also receive the worst kind of abuse far beyond what most people's imagination can picture. Beta alters generally see themselves as cats. So, we're going to park it right there for a second because a large percent of the black female population is abused as children. It is common for you to meet somebody in your dating history and you ask them that at some point it comes out and they tell you, I was abused as a child. I'm going to say it was about 80% of the women that I have dated have been sexually abused. So what these intelligence agencies are recognizing is something that's older than their program, is that the idea that a person can be manipulated once they are sexually abused. They then become a tool to be used however they so choose, however the manipulator chooses to use them. But we're gonna diverge for just a second and speak on how this came about. We're gonna go back a little bit into the 60s because there was he was a philosopher, and his name is Herbert Marcuse, and he wrote several books, and one was The One-Dimensional Man, and the other book is Eros and Civilization. Now, Marcuse is hugely responsible for influencing the thinking of the 1960s of the sexual revolution and free sex. But see, one has to understand that Marcuse is what he's spouting is a combination of Freudian pansexualism with Marxism. His philosophy was removing the barriers, the harness that separated the individual from unlimited sensual pleasure. So living in a society where you had complete access to sexuality, unrestricted, unlimited, simply for the benefit of pleasure. But see, here's the thing. It goes against your moral upbringing. It goes against your moral code on the inside that's ingrained in you, because a person that has a moderate amount of restraint is a person that you can reason with, because it's hard to reason with people who are completely driven by lust. Who, when you look at people who are driven by lust, they have a sociopathic type of mentality. Yes. And
people are people, they're things, they're objects. And it also allows them to be, sometimes it allows them to manipulate or allows them to be manipulated. It's a very fine line between the manipulator and the person being manipulated. If you got a young woman who's being used, she can either be used by the older man or she can use older men. So whenever you watch these James Bond movies, it's always a sex kitten, and that's what Roscoe's been trying to tell you. That sex kitten is by design. Either she's serving, even though she's being used, she's serving a master. At the same time, she's still manipulating people, and that's what people are going for. Is that you have a society where these inhibitions aren't there, so these people are willing to do anything, but they want to keep a secret, but they'll do anything for sex. And people don't understand the drive for sex. It's hard to make people understand. It's called a sex drive. It's not a sex like. And so when people are using the sex drive as a weapon, bad things can happen. It's easy for you to topple whole organizations, and people give up important information all because of sex.
So the dark occultists who run the entertainment industry utilize fashion as a means of occult communication. They use the costumes that the singers wear in music videos or on stage to communicate sexual dominance or wild, uninhibited sexual behavior. Because what it brings out in the slave, in the Project Monarch, this beta, is that it brings out the sex kitten programming, and then when it's triggered, they perform any act. So again, they're a slave. They're this mental mush that is warped and twisted however the handler wants to.
What about the sexual, satanic sexual
sex magic? Sex magic.
Yeah, but I'm saying the term that they use, satanic ritual abuse. They, you always find these people, whether they're famous or they're poor. A lot of poor kids, poor girls from foreign countries. They get over here, they become adults, and all of a sudden, something happens to trigger these events that happened to them years ago, and they love to discredit, like, oh, it didn't really happen. They love to discredit it, but what was it? Was it called Melvaludes? You remember They had there was a huge scandal in France about the Melvaludes, where some girl wakens from her sex stuff and she's telling them, "Hey, I was using this castle. All this happened." And this girl, I guess she's in her 16 or 20s now, but she knew where all these rooms were in this castle that she supposedly had never been in. What it was she was a sex slave, and then you find out this Melvaludes thing went all the way up to the upper government and all this other stuff. Same thing with here in Omaha, Nebraska. We talk about the Republican Party and Larry King and the Franklin Credit Union scandal. You find we've talked about the military aspects of it, but let's just talk about the pleasure aspects where you have rich elite people who are using people, and you think that there's just about sex, but half of this stuff are rituals. My brother just spoke about the music industry, where we know for a fact they've done rituals in front of us. Going back to, I remember it was like the Grammys right after Whitney Houston had passed, where that's when Nicki Minaj introduces us publicly to her Roman, my other alter ego named Roman, and she's running around and she's having there's priests and there's demons having sex on the stage, and
Right.
there's fire.
And these people are they're adepts or students of Aleister Crowley. And Aleister Crowley wrote a book called Sex and the Supernatural. And he would use sex rituals. He would use them in initiation ceremonies. And he went on to write several books on the use of erotic magic. So these are low vibration, dark arts practices. These people that want power, these egomaniacal people that want to be on stage at all times, will do whatever it takes. Katy Perry is a perfect example of this. She's a sex kitten now. She started off in the church as a religious Christian singer. And she became this this sex kitten that is all about, sex and fucking aliens and doing whatever it takes to get to the top. And so all these people worship at the altar of people like Aleister Crowley, who called himself the Beast 666 himself. So this is all based in darkness. Now, a lot of you probably listen to this thinking, no, it's just harmless fun. We see chicks in cheetah print costume bodysuits all the time at the club. All right. How many chicks in the club are wearing that? And then what is the psychological health of that person? And what is the family life history of that person? Go to a strip club, man. Talk to some of the girls that work at the strip club. Ask any of them if they've been abused. Now, some of them will be, some of them, hold on, wait. Some of them will be protective and won't tell you. But once you break through those barriers and like those walls come down, you start to hear some stories of abuse. It's common.
But trust me, I used to bounce at a strip club. There's always a question that you ask yourself or you ask the woman: is a stripper what you do, or is a stripper what you are? If a stripper is what you do, as in that's just how you make money, fine. But if a stripper is what you are, there's other behaviors that go along with this. Abuse or neglect or things like that are usually involved. You'd be surprised how many girls have good parents, and they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'm just doing this for the money. I make enough money for 3 or 4 days. I pay my rent, and I don't do nothing else, or I go to my regular job." That's one thing. But it's another thing when somebody they're just a train wreck of a person. They're literally a train wreck where every aspect of their life is chaos and confusion. And hell, the reason they're a stripper is because they're late. You're late to the strip club. Strippers get penalized. Don't ever think the strip club ain't a pimp. If they show up 5 minutes late, they don't get paid. And so strippers, if you don't know how the lifestyle works, is you're essentially a waitress for this club. You get paid like $7 an hour, which is less than minimum wage. And if you show up late, you don't get the $7. You just straight tips. But you got to remember, you still got to pay the house at some point. You still got to pay the bouncer. You still got to pay the DJ. So that is just this big hustle. So why would somebody want to do that? Because it's great if you're in a big city like Atlanta. If you're in a big city like Miami where you can make money. But if you're in a small town like Omaha, Nebraska, you're not going to make any money. And then you got to pay the babysitter to watch your 3 kids. So you're hooked on that lifestyle and that cycle of abuse. The problem is when somebody's abused sexually at a very young age, or someone's abused sexually, they tend to get abused in other portions of their life later on. That's what, in, like I said, I diverge back to the whole R. Kelly thing. There's something that there's a couple of reasons black folks didn't shut down R. Kelly, and one of the main reasons is because we've been manipulated by the government so much that we think justice is outside of our realm. Like, man, they ain't gonna do shit to that nigga anyway. That how we have that mentality, and so when you understand that your oppressor has got to you like that, then when you see somebody being oppressed, we grew up watching pimps. If you grew up knowing anything about pimping, you knew what he was doing was pimping. Now, I get it. He was doing some young girls, but he did some older adult women too. How is he able to do that? Because he's able to spot an abused person because he was abused. His abused radar is off the charts. He knows his victim. He knows who to fuck with. He's like that lion in that limping wildebeest. He sees, okay, there's a bunch of wildebeest out there, but I see that nigga with the limp. And people don't realize that they display their pain, and people who have certain radars can spot that shit. So what my brother just told you, when you go in the club, it's one thing if a woman if she's healthy, she's making her money, she's doing what she wants, and she decides to dress a certain way. It's one thing. It's another thing when you have somebody who's been abused their entire life, and they're just starving for love and attention, and they think that sexual energy is love. It's not. They think that sexual attention is love. It's not. And they have a hole inside of them. They're trying to fill it with this wrong shit. That's the problem with this whole thirst pocket thing and this whole thirst movement, this thought movement, is because some of these people aren't meeting their own basic needs, but they're meeting other people's needs, and they're making a little bit of money. This is just another form of communism/capitalism merged together, where you got people who are working, ain't making no money. How many times have they thought about in Vegas, where prostitution is legal? They thought about getting unions and shit like that, and they thought about having rules. And people literally are arguing for both sides, saying, "Okay, you're abusing the girls even more by making them union or pay dues," or, "Hey, the state's abusing these girls because it's forcing them to pay taxes." And then it's such a crazy thing. The bottom line is the state don't care about the well-being of its people. It simply cares about you paying taxes and you making money. So that's why it's important for us to, recognize that this abuse shit is real. My brother's telling you that these girls in the strip club, some of them are there because they want to be. Many of them are there because they have to be. They can't hold down other jobs. The abuse is too much. The ability to show up on time to work ain't there. And I'm not blaming the victim. We've got enough of that shit right there. The first thing they said when they talk about Bill Cosby, why were you in his hotel room? So this thirst thing has been going on for years, because Bill been doing that shit for years.
Okay. All right. So let's bring it back to sexual magic, because people need to understand that there are dark arts behind all of these things that you're seeing. When you see an overly sexed news media, entertainment industry, there are invisible forces behind that. And there are people that will do things in these sexual rituals, like masturbate under a full moon with a crystal dildo or a crystal butt plug, and yes, while having the orgasm, conjuring spells. Now,
that is casting a spell.
What you don't understand is that life happens in 3 levels: mind, body, and spirit. Now, you think this is in your mind and this is just physical. Well, there is a unseen spiritual realm where you are calling darkness down into your vessel to cast these spells and materialize what you want. That is low vibration, dark energy. Okay? You have to understand that you are mucking about in a cesspool of dark spiritual energy. These
it's a sexual board.
Yes.
You don't
yes.
realize which conjure it up. They
so
don't get it.
Here's the thing. These people are in control of the entertainment industry. These people are in control of the entertainment industry. And if you speak out against this, you're considered a prude. But see, that's all a trick. That's all a mental mind game. That's a mental mind game. In the same way that if you say something about Jewish people and Zionism, you're anti-Semitic. Well, that's a knee-jerk reaction. And anybody who has any sense, knows that when you use the word anti-Semitic, that's saying that you hate both Jews and Arabs. No, I'm speaking directly to a very specific small group of people that are wanting to control the planet. But right now in this conversation, we're talking about sex kittens and thoughts and thirst traps and the dark energy behind all of that. So you have to understand that what you're seeing is a machination, it's a machine, that these things are being controlled. Just look up the term sex kitten and you'll see websites that tout this as female empowerment. That's not, female empowerment doesn't happen through sex. If women want respect, then you respect a woman's mind. But for example, you look it up and you see something that says a sex kitten is a girl who has a lot of sex appeal, and she knows it and exploits it to her advantage. She takes pride in the fact that she's desired by men and uses her charm to get things done her way. She loves making a guy fall for her, and yet she doesn't really fall for the guy. That's manipulation, ladies and gentlemen. That is the essence of mind control. And so therefore, this sex kitten that was broken as a child through sexual abuse is now using the same mental games to control other people, be they men or women. So,
Look,
go ahead.
there's people who've been abused. People who unfortunately tend to become abusers. That the whole problem is she may have been abused by an organization, and now she's working for them unknowingly or knowingly. Men, it's the same thing for men. I'm not saying that men don't get abused and get fucked over and shit like that. But what I'm simply saying is that sometimes it's one thing if, like I said, if she had a whole healthy life and she decides to do something, is one thing. It's another thing when she was tortured and used and abused, and now she's abusing somebody else, because that's the power of abuse. It becomes a toy that you will. Look at the music industry. First, when we talk about the entertainment industry, we're talking about mostly film media. You know, we know the stories of how many of these child actors have shitty lives. It's not because they were just bad people and their parents didn't do a good job. It's because for them to get some of these roles, they were abused. And so then they turned to drugs to cope the pain. Next thing you know, they're a train wreck. But look at the music industry. They reward negative behavior. Like what happened to the happy rap? What happened to the political rap? It's a little bit here and there, but if
it's pushed to the side. It's pushed aside, and sex and music that glorifies taking pills. That is what's being pushed, because it's going further out on the ledge of perpetual adolescence that was started in the 90s.
The thing is, I remember, this sounds terrible. I know about the Black Panther Party when we were kids, but I thought they were just like the black equivalent to the Klan, and they're not. I learned about the Black Panther Party from a white man who was in SNCC, and he broke down like, nah, he's the Black Panthers fed people. They did this, that. And so he was like my teacher, and he's like, hey, bring me all the political rap you got. So I'm like, for real? So I go, and that's kind of how he taught me about the Panthers. So I get Paris. I get all the blackest guys I could find, and I go play this rap for him. He said, do you understand that they're talking about the Panthers? He said, these guys are from Oakland. They know, and he breaks this shit down. Well, that's how they get you. You don't, if right now, how many artists could you possibly find that are talking about real political shit, talking about making a change, making a real difference, and fighting your oppressor and shit like that? You remember Intelligent Hoodlum had a song called "Arrest the President." Remember Cool, Boots from the Cool. Like the songs that these guys were doing, it made us smart. So if those songs made me and you smart from the late '80s, early '90s, made us intelligent, made us read Malcolm X, made us follow Bobby Seals, Huey Newton, made us. I met Eldridge Cleaver. It made us smart. So why do you think that rap was wiped out? It was wiped out on purpose, because now we got a whole bunch of people who are only desire political gain and not political power. They desire capital, financial gain, and not power. And here's the thing. And like you said, these people they're celebrating their own abuse. Black folks celebrate their own abuse. Poor white kids celebrate their own abuse. Women celebrate their own abuse by either abusing or sitting there and they're actually exploiting themselves in a way like, okay, I get it, sexual. So how many sexual partners you got? How many times are you reading about these young girls who are getting trains run on them, but they're proud of it? Or they're decaying the moral fabric. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a friend of that organized religion that whole Catholic shit where if you look at somebody, you got to do a penance and pay money and all this other bullshit. And no, what we're saying is that they're eroding these moral walls on purpose so they can take advantage of you and do shit and run the country and do crazy shit.
Okay. There are dark forces behind these things that we're speaking about, but there are also political forces behind this as well. And so because of that, you have to understand some of the players in this game. And one person that spoke about these moving pieces behind the scenes was Yuri Bezmenov. Yuri Bezmenov was a KGB informant who defected to Canada in the 1970s. Now, he was the son of a Soviet officer, and his dad would go to the Soviet outposts like Cuba, and he would inspect the soldiers and make sure that everybody is towing the party line and everything is up to snuff. Well, he predicted these turmoil that we're going through in America, and he said, basically, there's things you can look for to see where this is going. And he called it the 4 stages of subversion. But what he was really saying is that in traditional Soviet KGB spycraft, they had a budget. And 10% of that budget was for traditional spying on people, traditional spycraft, the stuff you see, the cloak and dagger type of shit. 90% of their budget was used for subversion, foreign and domestic. And so he talked about the 4 stages of subversion. And these 4 stages begin with demoralization. So in this demoralization, you began to see things in the U.S. with cuss words starting to appear in television and in music. Mm-hmm. And there were these forces that were pushing for they would push for the sexual revolution, which is how people like Herbert Marcuse was promoted and how he gained popularity in the 60s with swingers and the sexual revolution. And so this is the beginning of the demoralization of the population. And then we move next to destabilization and social chaos. So then the 60s created the hippies, which created this laissez-faire, free-thinking, free love type of mentality. And then also you have the CIA bringing heroin and cocaine into the black community. So 80%.
LSD. Don't forget the LSD.
Yeah, well, LSD was artificial. LSD was not created for mind control. LSD was used for mind control. So I want to be very clear about that. It was a psychedelic that was used for mind control.
Mind expansion, yes, but yes. The CIA used it for mind control.
Correct. So for part of MK Ultra, which is part of Project Monarch, which you spoke about earlier. But so continuing, 80% today, 80% of black children come from single parent homes. Just think about that for a second. 80% of black children come from single parent homes.
That was by design.
That was by design. That was created to prevent any type of uprising. It was to prevent the next black messiah. It was to prevent black people from gaining power and gaining an edge and getting a foothold in America to rise up out of oppression. So that really the appearance of progress has been a cosmetic one. When in actuality, all the damage that's being done to us is behind the scenes, is behind this facade, this window dressing that we have, we shall overcome. Meanwhile, while Martin
and benign neglect in the cognitive dissonance.
Yes, and while Martin and Malcolm are out there speaking truth to power, planes are being flown into the U.S. to bring heroin in. And those planes change from heroin in their cargo to cocaine. And then you take hip-hop, which is only a response to this oppression, and then you put a watered-down version of it into the minds of young people that promotes drug use, that promotes violence, that promotes the
sexual exploitation
of black women. And it also promotes criminal behavior, which feeds into the prison industrial complex. So therefore, these black babies are now being born to single mothers because the fathers are incarcerated and now the mother might be on drugs. And this is a perfect situation to water down a strong,
Hey, Roscoe,
powerful genetic line of people.
what was that movie with James Earl Jones and the pretty black lady? I can't think of it. Geraldine,
Yes,
where
Geraldine. And Geraldine
if
was promoting the nanny state. It was promoting welfare. She was attempting to have a semblance of dignity and
he
and
couldn't live
and,
with her,
and
she's trying to.
have a
Yeah,
relationship with a black man, and she had to hide him when the social worker came around. And
he
now
couldn't be in the house. They couldn't cohabitate because
and
first
that's
things
all
first.
that is just a modern up version of a plantation where a black woman is hiding a black man who ain't supposed to be in her slave quarters.
But let's go back to your original point. Is that by breaking up the black family? See, people say slavery broke up the black family. No, before the '60s, we were married. '60s, '70s, we were married. But after the Black Revolution, after the Civil Rights Movement, all of a sudden the families started breaking
Drugs,
up.
drugs.
Everything from drugs to illegal activities, all this different. But the reason that's so important is by design. The reason it's by design is because the black middle class, him and her, funded the civil rights movement. So that goes back to the benign neglect, which means is that they'll never actually. This Senator Moynihan created that shit. They'll never actually address the black issues. But let's
Wait,
get
no, no,
back.
no, 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 no. Hold on. Park it right there because this didn't happen to the black community first. It first happened under a communist regime in Russia. Now, this happened in 1917, Red October, the Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolshevik Revolution caused such an upheaval to Russian culture that there was wife swapping going on. And there was this promotion of this sexual liberation that this is the way that we're all comrades and you can fuck my wife and I'm gonna fuck yours. It caused an incredible amount of divorces because these women no longer had to be yoked to these men anymore. And so they were going and fucking who they wanted. These men were fucking who they wanted. The problem is it created so many bastards. There were so many children, fatherless children in the streets that Stalin gave an edict that you could go out and shoot as many kids under 12 as you wanted. They were murdering children in the streets. They were murdering orphans in the streets because these kids were all over the place. You also see that in Africa now. When I talk to my homeboys from West Africa, they tell me, man,
Don't forget Brazil too. Remember the
they
kids in Brazil.
and kids in Brazil. He's like, man, there's so many fatherless kids just running the streets of Africa in all these different countries. You see them all the time. They're a problem. Nigeria has it. Ghana has it. It's a problem. But so that is not new. So before it happened to African people, it happened to white people in Russia. White people in 1917 Bolshevik Russia. The Bolshevik
You
Revolution.
know that your oppressor is familiar with history more than you are.
That's
And when you
right.
don't know
That's
history, then
right.
we always hear. Okay, Roscoe? Let me go on a tangent real quick.
Go.
Look, if you don't think this shit is true, I've been in corporate America for a while, and one of the things that happened to me as I started rising up in my job, they wanted me to go out with them. I don't go out with certain people. I don't go out. If I go out, it's with my friends, the people I grew up with, or the people that I have a connection to. I don't. I was never good at kissing ass. I was never good at. I'm social. I'm very intelligent. I don't go out and drink and snort cocaine and fuck people's wives. And so I learned this behavior in college. When I was in college, I was working for a car dealership, and these guys was wife swapping back then. And I'm seeing this shit, and I'm just like, I guess I was 18, 19, because I wasn't 20 or 21 yet. So I'm 19, maybe going into my 20, and I'm seeing working at this dealership that I saw how these guys were wife swapping. They were doing shit that you wouldn't believe. And the thing was, they held that shit over each other. They were essentially blackmailing each other. And I'm seeing that. So when I became a manager in a big company, when I started moving up, I didn't hang out with people. Now I ended up losing my job, which is fine with me. I didn't like it. I was pissed, but hey, I'm union. I went back to the union. But the point I'm trying to make is that compromising somebody morally is a tool used by the oppressor, because when they got shit on you, they know that you'll keep your ass in line. When they have something on you sexually, then you'll keep your ass in line. And that's what this whole situation is, that sexual manipulation is part and parcel of oppression, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's capital supremacy, whether it's female dominance or male supremacy, whatever it is, that is a tool used by both sides. And you got to recognize that, yeah, once you let somebody bang your wife, you'll start moving up in the company. Once they have something on you, okay, now you're a director or a vice president, but all of a sudden, like, hey, you'll never really speak out. And that's the same shit. The same shit we see in the music industry, especially with black folks. Same thing we see in the entertainment industry. You move up in a certain part, you'll never speak out because they got shit on you. They got shit on you that will really fuck people's minds up. Hell, I think they thought that they could keep Cosby in his place. Cosby spoke out too much. That's what this is about. Cosby was being punished because if you look at what he did, I don't know exactly how much he did, so please forgive me. I don't think he did all the women, but my point being is for you to go over 4 or 5 decades of this behavior and nobody blew the whistle on you is because they were cool with it. They thought that they would be able to use that against you. Then when they found out that Bill was still trying to buy NBC and still trying to do all this other shit, he got too big for his britches. Then all of a sudden he's punished. He's punished in a what's the word I'm looking for? In the public's eye. And, you know, all these people, I knew about it. I knew Bill did that kind of shit. You motherfucker. I knew R. Kelly did that kind of shit. Y'all bitch ass motherfuckers. They were more worried about their career and their ability to rise up and move up. And this is still the thirst pocket syndrome. This is still, hey, I want to move up and make money, but I don't mind being abused. I'll sell my soul.
I'll do whatever it takes.
And that's the whole situation. But what we're trying to tell you is that shit happens in corporate America too. So if you're smart and you recognize it, don't become a victim of it. You know, protect yourself from it. Don't look if you're moving up on your own merits, keep it that way. If you're blessed enough or fortunate enough to be able to do that. But I'm trying to tell you, I saw a lot of this behavior in college. I remember I was working for a cable company in the city that I was in, and there was a sister that had moved up real high. They said, "Hey man, you don't even know." She was screwing all the technicians. Basically, she had something on everybody in that building, and that's how she worked her way up because she didn't know shit. Kitten. Man,
listen,
man.
Okay, but listen. So here's the thing. All right, so coming back to what I was saying about the Bolshevik Revolution, wife swapping and orphans. You, instead of murdering these orphans like Stalin allowed his soldiers to do, now what happens is you have all these fatherless children who get abused at different points in their life. And they become sex kittens, or they become the male version of that. And then what happens is they are now part of this mill that is cranking out all these children that are now orphans because the state, the nanny state, is taking their children away. And so then you have this organization. What's the one that takes your kids from you here in America? What are they called? CPS. Okay, so now you have CPS taking these little black kids and, you know, poor white kids away from their parents, and now you have this whole mechanism that's cranking out orphans. It's an orphan mill, and they're cranking out sex kittens, and they're perpetuating this program. They're perpetuating this system of keeping people in this evil cycle of sex magic, abuse, and mind control. And it continues.
Don't leave out the most important part. These kids have no loyalty to their family or anybody else. Their loyalty is to the state, who,
and
again,
money,
the nanny state, as you put,
and money,
who gives them money here,
which
and
is
there.
why these thirst traps are on these OnlyFans, selling their body with a click.
It was what to say. Well, you ain't giving me no money, as if to say, giving. First things first, as a parent, let's talk about being a parent. As a parent, I provide a place for you to stay, clothing, well-being. I'm not handing you cash. I'm taking care of you and hopefully give you the skills when you turn 18, 19, you could take care of yourself. That's the whole idea. But instead, you ain't giving me no money. They giving me money. That's the same thing a pimp. That's the same thing a hoe says when she leaves her parents and goes to a pimp. You ain't giving me no money. It's the same thing a little boy says who's getting manipulated. Yeah, I'm selling drugs. My mama can't take care of me. And that whole you saw that shit in the 50 Cent movie. Like, hey, she ain't giving me no money. She can't afford it. So instead of you showing the respect for this person giving you life and nurturing you and making you into a man, adolescent going to be a man. Instead, you like, since they can't pay me, I'm gonna go do this. Which, hey, I ain't got a problem with you selling drugs, but what I'm saying is the idea to kick dirt on your parents, that's not right.
Okay.
And the state is using that shit on purpose. The state is using your. Sometimes it's not even abuse. Sometimes it's perceived abuse, because we live in that society now where everybody's been abused, right? And everybody has a sob story. Fuck that shit. I don't have a sob story. I didn't have a bad childhood. Fuck all y'all.
So this destabilization, which is the second part of this. Now, just remember that this is 4 parts, and these are 4 stages of a Marxist takeover. So you have to also understand that you've heard that term recently with Black Lives Matter and the money that is funding Black Lives Matter. And the active controllers of Black Lives Matter are Marxists. So these people are Manchurian candidates and don't even realize it. Stop drinking that fucking Kool-Aid. So, again, this is social chaos. The number 3 part of these 4 stages of Marxist takeover and subversion is crisis, instigating a civil war, false flags, fake pandemics, gender wars, the whole thing about you need a bathroom because you're a transgender person, and all these pronouns, and you have everybody bickering back and forth about things that do not matter at the end of the day. And these fat cats that have created this system, that these levels of subversion, they are laughing their ass off while Americans fight with each other over pronouns. There are Twitter wars over fucking pronouns. While when you're not doing that, and you are J and your D to some chick who's showing her feet. Some chick who's showing her feet to you, and you're jacking your dick to that shit. It's shameful. It's shameful, and it's ridiculous. All of this.
The thing is, it's
behavior,
called more freedom.
Yeah,
convincing you that you're free.
You're convincing you that you're free, but it's a mind fuck. That's the only fucking that's going on is your mind. You getting fucked in the head and don't realize it. These people that don't understand, even on a dark arts level, these people who masturbate and cast spells at the event of an orgasm under a full moon, that crystal dildo has pockets of holes in it. Crystal is a very porous stone. And
it holds information. It holds that shit.
Well, wait. But the downside of that is a crystal is one of the most porous stones, and it has holes in it. So you putting this crystal dildo in your vagina, and it is getting bacteria that's growing in there. And that bacteria that is growing in there is going to cause an infection inside your body. And here you are calling down darkness into your body, and that infection, that alien invasion is growing inside your body now. And now you have an infestation. You are possessed by something biological. And if you keep on calling out these angelic words and this angelic language from the ones who have fallen, then you will become possessed. And you, at the end of the day, you are all twisted up and tangled in a bunch of cords and don't realize what's going on and which way is up. Meanwhile, you don't have time to put that calamine lotion on that dirty pussy because you got to go make some money on OnlyFans. Well, you got abused as a child, and so, a bunch of bad decisions brought you to this point. You see where you are now? This is the sum of all things. This is the sum of a snowballing effect that begins at an early age. When you split that family apart, when you look at a civilization, you say, how do I bring it down without firing one shot? Well, we got to have a plan that's at least 150 years to 200 to 300 years. These people, these dark people are very patient. People talk about how the Chinese have, 100-year plans and like 10-year plans and 50-year plans. These people are willing to sit back and watch this civilization fall over the course of decades, over the course of centuries. You can't think of this as a short game. This is a long con, man. It's a long fucking con. And you have to be resilient every step of the way. It's like sparring or fighting with somebody. When you are fighting, you cannot let them see your weakness. You cannot give. You cannot ebb because they're going to flow all over you. You have to stay in control of that sparring bout or that fight, that test of wills, because it is a test of wills, and this is a long ass chess match. You think I'm bullshitting? Take everything we've been speaking about today and go and look it up. Don't believe a fucking word that we've said, but go and look it up. Go and read the words of Herbert Marcuse. Go and read the sexual magic books by Aleister Crowley. Go and read all these things. Go and learn about the Bolshevik Revolution, and not what happened directly as it happened, but the fallout. What happened years from that, weeks later.
But he's saying, don't talk about the political part. See the fallout on the people.
On
you
the
got to see
people.
what happened to the people.
Don't worry about the window dressing. Walk into that store and see how dusty that fucking store is and how truly empty it is because they're not selling anything. You got people that are making millions of dollars from selling nothing. They're selling nothing at all. It's a sham. It is complete
they're selling
sham.
A dream. They're
Right.
selling you a dream, and you think their lives are great when they're not. You think that they get it when they don't. You think. And here's another thing that you got to understand is that people love to tell you how your intelligence matters. Have you heard the Kardashians talk? Them people ain't intelligent, but they're still successful. That's what you. And so that gives you the I can do that because there are people who are backing these people that you don't. There are evil forces that you just don't understand that are pushing that. She didn't get big just because. There's somebody that wants that to happen also. Look, I'm not saying that everything is controlled by everybody and all the secret societies, but I'm saying that there's a reason that these people are stars who really aren't that smart, who really don't have anything to offer other than what their looks, their appearance, maybe a few words here and there. It's a hustle. And, it's to keep you from thinking about the real fight. It's to keep you from going, I want to be a congressman. It's to keep you from, I want to fix my people. It's to keep you from doing that shit.
So look, and
it's a distraction, mass distraction.
There's so many distractions. I remember back in 2015 when Trump began to talk about his run for the presidency, and all of a sudden, there was an explosion of all these brothers being killed by police, and I'm like, dude, where in the fuck is this coming from? Man, I travel a lot. I go to every ghetto in America. I'm all over the place. I mean, it's the same everywhere, and I'll see police fucking with brothers, but not to this level. And it seemed like it was artificially hyped up. And it all felt like it was a distraction from the real shit that was going on, from the real stuff that was going on overseas, the real atrocities. People don't talk about how the CCP, the People's Republic of China, the Communist Party of China, is committing some of the most atrocious acts. Genocide on the ethnic Muslim Uyghur people of China. How there is organ harvesting going on right now. They grab these people from their homeland. They bring them into concentration camps, real 100% concentration camps, just like the ones that the Jews were in.
If you're a Muslim in China, they will put you in a concentration camp.
And what they do is they bring them in, and when they first capture these people, they give them a physical to see what level their health is in. Not because they're going to be in a labor camp, which they will be, but because they want to see if their organs are healthy. So that when some high-ranking Communist Party officer, their health starts to fail, they will have this database, a database of human organs. Of course, it's going to be labeled.
Lungs, hearts, livers, kidneys,
but it'll be labeled in with numbers and ways that you can't just detect easily. And so you can then go and look up, okay, well, in Shenzhen province, I have 42 organs, and 42 of those, 12 of those organs are livers. Okay, so good. We know we'll have some livers, and party comrade Yao will be able to get this, when his liver fails, and we can have the surgery. These things are happening, man. These are truly atrocious things, and they're controlling these people with big tech like facial recognition and biometric passports, genetic passports, and TikTok. These people in America use this technology for entertainment, and it is being used for oppression and slavery in another country.
Data gathering, like you wouldn't believe.
Data mining, which you brought up a very good point. Hold on, park it right there. Data mining is a very important part of the thirst trap experience, because these thirst traps, your interaction with these thirst traps, how many thirst traps do you visit online? How much are you spending? Which ones? And then you start getting these suggestions. Well, if you like her, you should check out Jessica
You're like,
Boo. Because Jessica Boo got a
it's not
big
even
old
about
ass.
money.
Oh, no. Jessica Boo got a big old
It's not
ass
even
and some
about money.
thick
They're
legs. And
driving for shit.
you like thick legs and a big old ass. So look, we matched you to this thick leg and big old ass on this brown skinned girl over here. All of this is data mining. Wait.
Pornhub knows more about your sexual identity than you do. Like, oh, really? How did things you may like? How do you know? They have an algorithm. These people know how much time you spend doing its immoral shit. It sucks you in. It's a hustle. You have to understand that distraction is part of it, because if you're distracted, you're not fighting. Here's another thing that is really hard. Whenever the whole conspiracy theory thing, whenever somebody points out something really important, there's so many theories out there that you sometimes don't grab onto what's really important. I remember when the Trayvon thing happened, and we all were marching behind that shit. And I remember when Zimmerman got off, the judge was cheering, like he was a good guy. And I'm like, you're basing that on his race. But how about the Jordan Davis one? When you don't know the laws, we get wrapped up in bullshit. You remember Jordan Davis? The white man had a concealed carry, and these kids were in the car playing loud music. He was yelling at them. Now, mind you, anybody who has a concealed carry knows there's one thing that you cannot do. You cannot be drunk. This man had left his son's wedding because his son had kicked him out, and he was drunk. That should have made that murder immediately, because even if you were, so there's these little details that people parade in front of you, and you don't realize that, hey, the fix is in. The fix is in. And if you don't recognize the fix is in, then you can't properly assess what's really going on around you. So what my brother was telling you with all these shootings of black men, again, we're still talking about the thirst trap. They're telling you it's a distraction. So you got black folks marching, don't have a real clear agenda, and don't give a fuck about who's in political office, who's doing shit to them. I remember Obama gave all this power to Monsanto, or we talk. Shit's happening while we're marching that actually really affects us. And I'm not saying marching is bad, because you got to remember, do you know why marching worked in the 50s and 60s? Because there was a boycott. Y'all motherfuckers ain't boycotting shit. Now we talk about like, let's not buy gas on Thursday. Nah, my nigga, let's do a real boycott. If we sat here and did a real boycott, then they really would fuck with black issues. The problem is that we get sucked into bullshit like, hey, we need more gun laws because people are getting shot. No, we don't need more gun laws. Give me more guns so I can protect myself from the government and the motherfucker trying to break in my house. You don't want the ability to defend yourself. You think it's the government's job to defend you, but who defends you from the government? So what we're saying is that this shit is going down, and people don't recognize that this is some real shit, and you're being distracted on purpose. Why do you think there's so much media coverage over these people getting shot? And don't get me wrong, black lives do matter. That black boy, that little black girl, these people, they all matter. But how many Native Americans are killed with police contact? Because their numbers are actually higher. I mean, it's crazy. I know that sounds bad. I'm not dissing nobody, but when you look at the Native American numbers, them motherfuckers get eradicated by cops and don't nobody say shit. So that's what you must understand, that this distraction shit is real.
Also, false flags are created to take away gun rights. And people need to understand that when you start seeing these shooting sprees that are popping up. Why are we seeing any shooting sprees right now when the state of Texas is freezing to death? Why is it? Why are no shootings right now? So school is out, so there's no mass shootings anymore. Really? So okay. Here's an idea. How come that none of these mass shooters are going to these corona testing stations and shooting up everybody there? I ain't seen nothing or heard anything like that. Yeah. So look,
I was just in Miami. They literally had like bullshit 50 to 75 cars in line to get tested. So you mean to tell me that ain't nobody shooting up no corona testing facilities?
Right.
That tells
you can go by there with a fully auto and just spray everybody and be done with it. But no, but see, because
if you want to kill people, but this is about the story. This is more about the story than it is about the killing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Proceed, Roscoe. You're getting deep on them. I'm sorry. You're getting too deep on them.
So
they can't swim, nigga. They can't swim.
The number four of the stages of subversion is normalization. You keep hearing all about the new normal, the new normal. This winter, that was all we heard about, the new normal, the new normal. They're putting this term into your head, the normalcy of constant chaos, the the normalcy of oppression, the normalcy of compliance, the normalcy of compliance. People, you have been broken down. You have been broken down for decades to reach this point. You see, this is the culmination of all that has come before to create you into this state of compliance. And so this is how they normalize you into somebody that complies, into self-policing. I was in the grocery store earlier today, and there was a woman working in there, and she got angry at some guy that was 2 aisles away coughing. She was like, "Get out of the store." And I'm like, "Stop." I said to her, "Stop, hold on. You're wearing a mask. I'm wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask. What are you worried about?" I said, "Lady, take it easy. Do not let this stuff drive you crazy." I said, a little bit of common sense goes a long way. And you got to remember that. You cannot let this stuff get to you. She's like, "I know, it's just been so stressful." I said, "I understand that. But you got to remember who you are and where you come from." This is a white woman. I said, "You got to remember who you are and where you come from and the people that raised
We are
you."
fighting each other.
We
Yeah, they
are.
got you fighting each other. That's
Yes.
not right.
And I said, "Hey, it's not as bad as you think it is." I said, "The sun is shining outside today and it's going to be in the 50s. All right? It's a beautiful day out there. Give thanks for that. Don't let this stuff break you down. All right? Just take a deep breath and relax." And I went on my way. She was like, "You know what? It's cool. It's cool." I was like, "Oh, yeah, of course it is. It's just like you just got to take a minute and do a reality check." But see, that's the problem, though, is because your reality is become so warped and so alien in comparison to the reality that you came from or the reality of 2 years ago.
Here's the deal. She's yelling at a man. She probably should be feeling compassionate for her. Like, "Sir, are you okay? Are you choking? Do you
Dude,
need help?"
whenever I
Instead of
see
that,
somebody coughing, I'll go to them like, "You want a cough drop, man? Take his Ricola. Take that shit. Take that." He's like, "Yo, thank you, man." Blah, blah. Like, just take it. Put that shit in your mouth and fucking, it'll help you. You won't cough.
look, like I said, we've lost our compassion because we're all worried about ourselves, and that is again by design. We're not, like I said over and over, COVID is a real disease, is a real sickness. But if you listen to Dr. Sebi and you proceed to eat the right foods, you really ain't got much to fear. If you fast 2 or 3 days a week, you really ain't got shit to fear. People. I remember when I got sick, my brother on the mic told me, "Hey, you need some vitamin D, vitamin C, man. Hey, duct tape, get it off your ass and go get this shit. Take more than you're supposed to." Stuff like that. We want them to give us an instant fix. We are drug addicts. We are all drug addicts now, but that's by design. Big Pharma, going back to Henry Ford, who was a huge socialist, that shit was by design. Like, okay, take a pill to fix it. There's no pill to fix what's going on in America. We all must get up off our ass, get back in shape, participate in government, and fix this shit. The whole thirst trap thing, the sex kitten, is by design. When you realize that these people are manipulating you on purpose, these people are using some devastating thing that happened to you as a child or something that happened to you, they're using that against you. And now you're using it against other people, and you don't even realize you're serving a master. Look, you got to wake the fuck up. Look, stop thinking entertainment is a lifestyle. Entertainment is something to distract you for a few minutes, then you go back to reading books, eating healthy, and taking care of your family. But instead, it's just the opposite. You see this entertainment, and I want to drink Cristal. I want a bunch of bitches. I want a Bentley. And so then now you're not actually working towards making yourself a better person or making your family better. You're working towards fucking fictional ass fucking goals. Get your thumb out your ass. Get your head out your ass. Get everything out your ass and recognize what the fucking shit is about. And actively, look, I get it. If you have had a problem or you have been abused, recognize it, heal. Before you go someplace else, heal yourself or get some help healing. Because if you're healed, then they can't use that shit against you. That's what this shit's about. Can't nobody use something against you if you heal. If you break your arm and you heal, you're out there lifting weights again. But if you break your arm and you keep working and you don't let your arm heal, your arm will heal improperly and you'll never have the proper use of it. That's you, motherfucker. Recognize that shit.
All right. So, again, I want to talk about and just recap the 4 stages of diversion, or also known as the 4 stages of a Marxist take. The 4 stages of a Marxist. The 4 stages of a Marxist takeover: demoralization, is number one. Number two is
I thought,
destabilization. Number three is crisis. And number four is normalization. Now, everything we spoke about today, starting with the sex kitten or the thirst traps, to sex magic, to diversion, to the different levels of control, Project Monarch, all of these things are related. You have to utilize critical thinking because it is critical thinking that allows you to zoom out, because a lot of times we're too close to things to really see the entire picture. So zoom out and look at and see the connections and how these things are related, and how marching through time, there is a mechanism of control that is related to the next step in its evolution. And you have to understand that there is a bigger plan at work. So people may listen to this and they may balk at the title of this show, of this episode, the Thirst Trap Industrial Complex, and be like, oh, he's just being facetious. No, I'm not. I'm speaking to something that people dismiss. Oh, he's being a hater. Nope, 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 nope. I'm saying this because I love you. It's out of love we do this show. Out of love for people to wake up. Not woke, to be conscious, though. All right? People to be aware of what is going on and to be constantly taking the temperature of the room as it drops. Your body has a natural thermometer in it, a thermostat system that tells you as the temperature goes up and down. You go outside and you play for hours and hours as a kid, you can feel it getting cooler as the night creeps on, as sunset approaches, and you feel the temperature goes down. Well, the same thing is happening in the air, in the world we live in with current events. There's forces behind these current events that are changing the world that we live in, that changed the world that we are in into what we exist upon now. And how here it is, 2021, and we are the subjects of something that has created a quasi-police state, that has created a mental plantation that everybody is on now. We're self-policing ourselves about what to call each other, pronoun-wise, and whether or not you should wear a mask, or whether or not you give a damn about the people in Texas right now that are freezing their asses off without electricity, without water, that politicians that were voted by his constituents into office has the nerve to say that you people should fend for themselves. Wait a minute, hold on. You got into that job because you were voted into that office by people. So I'm illustrating all these things to say that you need to be aware of what is behind the thought industrial complex, behind the thirst trap industrial complex. Why is it so easy to see pussy online now? Why is it so easy to see people who had regular industries, who had regular skills and had a trade, will now go and show their body for money? Where is the morality behind that? How has your morality shifted to allow you to think that's okay? How is it okay for you to let your wife or your husband do this? Is that causing a rift? Is that going to cause your family to split? Because if that family divides, you become another statistic in this Marxist plan, in this Marxist regime. This is
just
what
the
they
bastard
want.
on the streets.
Yes, just another bastard on the streets that is grist for the mill, that is plump for the taking by CPS. Or in another time, it's Stalin's goons shooting little kids, murdering them because they're just pests, the pestilence. So understand what is behind the thirst trap industrial complex. There are so many layers to it, and it's up to you to filter through the detritus and find out exactly what is really there and how you are being manipulated. If you got time to go and spend $5 a month to look at some woman's toes, listen to me. Take that money and go buy blockchain currency. Put $5 away. Use that money to go and buy yourself tangible assets. Tangible assets will allow you to have something as a bargaining chip as the world falls apart. So that when the world falls apart, you're not standing in line waiting for the nanny state to take care of you. Ask the people of Texas right now how they doing. Ask them how those pronouns are serving them right now when they can't wash their own ass. When they don't have water to drink or water to wash their ass and they have children to feed. Ask them how them pronouns are working out for them now. Ask them if that shit really matters to them right fucking now, because it doesn't fucking matter. You've been played. Ask those people in Texas right now, do they want to look at some feet or somebody blasting themselves with a crystal dildo on OnlyFans? They don't give a fuck about that. It's the bare essentials right now, the bare necessities that matter right now. And you got to keep that common sense in your head. Someplace along the way, ladies and gentlemen, you lost your common sense. You lost your home training, black people. Wake the fuck up. That's all I got. We out. Peace.